If I were to approach my 19-year-old self, these are 19 things I would have taught myself in order to increase my longevity or potentially live longer, be healthier, have a better body throughout that time. All these things I've learned, things I've kind of evolved on. The first thing that I'd teach myself is build as much muscle as young as you can. Build that muscle when hormones are in your favor, when energy is in your favor, when you're not in pain when you lift. Do these and put the muscle on because it's an insurance policy for you later on. As we go through decades of life, you lose pounds and pounds a year just in living, just in natural catabolism that happens as you get older. So I would definitely tell myself, put as much muscle as you can on now while you're young and energetic. It'll carry you through a lot of your life metabolically, and you'll also be strong. The second thing I'd tell myself is focus on moving throughout the day. Because I used to think so much about, here was my workout, and that was the one part of time that I was active, and then I'd be sedentary. And I was like that through high school even. Now I would tell myself, the majority of the benefit that you're going to get is going to come from the energy you expend throughout the rest of the day, your non-exercise activity thermogenesis, scrubbing the dishes, walking through the parking lot. The lion's share of the calories you burn, the lion's share of the energy you expend comes from those things. So focus on just being an active person, because that will frame a habit that carries you a long ways through life, and you can live like those regions that live to be centenarians a lot easier. The third thing I'd tell myself is that supplements are okay, but they're temporary. They're designed to be supplemental. They're not designed to be something you take forever. Because it's easy, especially when you're younger, to start piling on all these supplements because you think you need this, you learn about that. I was that way. I get that way still sometimes because I get excited about things. The caveat, I think, is with performance. I think performance supplements, things like creatine, maybe beta-alanine, the occasional pre-workout, taurine. I think these things are a little different because they're ergogenic aids, and those things you can phase in and phase out, and they might be a little bit more intertwined in your life for good. But otherwise, like, you take supplements for this reason, for that reason, they're designed to come in and out of your life. You don't need to take them forever. Speaking of that, the fourth thing that I would tell myself is when you're dieting, it's not a bad idea to take a multivitamin. I would wonder why I would get run down when I was dieting, and it wasn't just because I was calorically deprived, it was because I was missing out on micronutrients. And honestly, my 19-year-old self would restrictively diet and probably get rid of a lot of important nutrients and minerals and whatnot. So although I don't think one is necessary all the time, I don't take one all the time unless I'm in a serious caloric deficit or I feel like I'm not getting adequate nutrition. But I'm not opposed to them like I was when I was younger. It's like, I don't need a multivitamin, I'm not 60. I'm like, that kind of makes sense. It's just building this repository of nutrition. With that, I would tell myself, diversify your protein more. I'll tell you, young Thomas was probably taking in way too much protein powder and way too much chicken breast. I mean, that was just kind of what was convenient. Heck, I kind of grew up thinking like, oh, I don't want to eat too much red meat. It's like what I know now, I would tell young Thomas, hey, like, diversify the protein you get. Even get plant protein sometimes. You want to know something funny? Literally today, I had some fermented tofu along with my chicken. Like, I diversify my protein because there's more than just protein coming from your protein. Number 6 is one that goes along with that. I would eat a lot more ground beef. I've realized now that ground beef is more than just beef and vitamins and B vitamins and whatnot that you get from the red meat, but it's collagen, it's connective tissue. Holy cow, like when it comes to gut health, when it comes to joint health, when it comes to flat out the collagen matrix, like you need that stuff. And ground meat, that's what's nice about it. It has that in it. So heck yes, I would tell myself, eat more ground beef, eat more burgers without a bun. Go and get that burger. You don't need to go to that restaurant and dance around all that garbage, just get a burger. The 7th thing I would tell myself, and this is really important, is stop shoving food down your throat and occasionally take a break from food. Skip meals. It's not gonna hurt. I've also learned now, and what I really wish I could have told myself then, is that you can have a large amount of protein in one sitting and it'll digest throughout the rest of the day. You can get a majority of your protein in one sitting and you don't have to be eating all these small meals. That would have saved me so much time and headache, but also it probably would have prevented me from ending up in catabolic states a lot of times when I would freak out because I would only have time to eat 30 grams of protein, and then I would end up missing meals. And at the end of the day, I only got 60 grams of protein, where if I had just had 100 grams at breakfast, things would have been a lot better off. The 8th thing I would have told myself is prioritize your gut health, because later in life, it's going to be your best friend. And as someone that has dealt with inflammatory bowel disease, as someone that's dealt with IBS and a lot of issues before, I will tell you, I wish I prioritized it a bit more. How would I prioritize it more? Fermented food, probiotic-rich foods, maybe the occasional probiotic, less sugar, maybe less trans fats, less peanut butter for sure. I mean, the usual suspects. But if I focus on my gut and focus on collagen and bone broth and all that stuff, perhaps I could take care of it and last me a little bit longer. The 9th thing that I'd tell myself is stop being afraid of fruit. Even before I was ever doing any low carb stuff, that phase of my life, I still was of the idea that fruit was sugar, and it was the same as eating a Snicker bar in a lot of ways, at least as far as macronutrients were concerned. So I would avoid the fruit a little bit because I'd think, oh man, this is too much sugar. Now I realize, holy cow, did I miss out on polyphenols? Did I miss out on antioxidants that today make me feel energized? Not in the immediate when I get sugar from fruit, but in the long term when I'm actually getting nutrition. I would tell myself, those apples, those blueberries, those strawberries, those are gonna get you through tough times. The 10th thing that I'd tell myself is I'd tell myself to prioritize eating clean and eating a lot of clean food first, exercise second. And this is funny because exercise is probably 70% of the equation, but if you don't feel good, you don't want to move. I used to try to out-exercise my bad diet. So I would eat weird things, or I would restrict, and then I would try to out-exercise it. And then all that would do is put me in a spot where I was just more hungry, but didn't want to move, but didn't want to exercise, so my workouts sucked. In reality, if I had just started with healthy food and started with wholesome food and eaten a fair bit of it, I would have wanted to move more, and I would have had more efficiency and effectiveness with my workouts. The 11th thing that I'd tell myself is prioritizing foods for the brain. And I would probably do this differently than I did in my life. Being ketogenic and low carb for a long time did so many things for me. It taught me so much, the cognitive function that I got, but I don't know if I'd tell my 19-year-old self, hey, you need to do 10 years of keto like I did. I've learned now that I can get the benefits of keto by exercising and just not eating a ton of carbohydrates, but also there's research now on using MCT oil. Like you can use MCT oil and MCT powder and it can drive up ketones and you can get that cognitive feeling and you can get somewhat keto adapted. If I had known that, I don't think that I would have not done keto. I probably would have, but it probably would have changed how I look at things because there was a long period of time where I really stuck doing keto because I liked how I felt mentally. Then I realized that I could still just eat clean, utilize MCT oil and MCT creamers and things like that. So I'd probably leverage fats for fuel in a different way. But I realized that, wow, there's so many people out there that can get benefit from just using fats appropriately rather than just having to go head first into a lower carb lifestyle or a keto lifestyle. That being said, I still think there's a lot of benefit to it. I just think I would have done it slightly different. I put a link down below for my really good friend Sean's company, Bubs Naturals. They have the only Whole30 approved C8, C10 MCT oil powder. Now, this company is near and dear to me. Those of you that know me know I work a lot with special operations. I work with special forces. Bubs Naturals is a company that was built in honor of Glenn Doherty, whose call sign was Bub. So if you remember the whole Benghazi thing in Libya, he gave his life up for all the Americans there. So he's a very important person to those that are in the special operations community. And 10% of all profits from Bubs Naturals go to charity in Glenn Doherty's name. That being said, they're also amazing products. So they're collagen, they're creamers, but in this case, they're MCT powder. Put it in my tea, I scoop. I usually just dry scoop it because it tastes good. But anyway, that code Thomas20 is a 20% off discount link. And even if you don't use MCT oil, know that it's for a really good cause and something that I truly stand behind. So that link is in the top line of the description underneath this video. Number 12, I'd eat slower and I'd eat my protein first. Learning what that does for your glucose, that's a game changer. But also, I just eat too dang fast. And if I had taught myself earlier on to eat slower, I would probably have better overall health, at least for a longer period of time. Number 13, I'd tell myself to sprint more. I was always a long distance runner and I love my long distance running. But as I get older, I realize I don't have that pep that people that sprint frequently do. That neural drive that allows them to be athletic and move fast. I can go for a long period of time and I'm semi-athletic, but I'm not that fast anymore. And I think it's because I didn't feed that stallion that much. So I would tell myself, hey, do those 1 to 3 minute sprints. It's good for your VO2 max, which is definitely good for longevity, and it's good for your overall performance as you get older. Number 14, I would drink a lot less Diet Coke and a lot less Monster energy drinks. That's just plain and simple. And I occasionally still have a Diet Coke. But I realize that even though it's speculative whether or not they are carcinogenic and how impactful it is, if I was drinking the amount that I used to drink, it almost certainly would be. Number 15 is I tell myself to treat myself more like a plant. What I mean by that is we are closer to plants than we might think as far as photosynthesis is concerned. We don't grow and turn green with chlorophyll, but light, our cells thrive on light. And even 6 years ago, people would have been bagging on the whole red light therapy and all that stuff. Now it's normal. It's healthy normal. And man, I did not pay attention to that. My circadian rhythms were all whacked out. The 16th thing I'd tell myself is stop forgetting to drink water in the morning and then allocating it all to nighttime. Now I drink most of the water in the morning and I taper as the day goes on. And that way I'm not waking up in the middle of the night to pee and my sleep quality is better. The 17th thing that I would tell myself, and one of the most important, is that you need to stop the ego training. Not ego lifting, that's different. Like you go into the gym and there's a little bit of exhibitionism that's there. There's the good looking girl here and you want to show off to the guy that thinks he's buff over here. And that exhibition, that's something different, right? There's the ego drive there that sometimes makes you lift better. I'm talking about in your own programming. Get up in the morning and, dang it, I don't feel that great and I really should probably taper down my training, but I'm gonna push hard anyway because I'm judging myself on it. That's how you end up sick. That's how you end up messed up. I would teach myself early on minimum effective dose. Train the minimum amount to get the maximum output. What's the least that I can do? What's the least deposit that I can make to get the maximum return? You wouldn't invest $100,000 into a company to only get $110,000 back, right? But you'd love to invest $20,000 and get $100,000 back, right? Same kind of thing. The 18th thing I'd tell myself is that, hey, don't drink the Kool-Aid about alcohol making you live longer. The literature now suggests that any amount of alcohol is actually deleterious to our health. And it's actually detrimental to our longevity. And best case scenario, it certainly doesn't have an additive positive effect. Number 19, I'd eat way more eggs. Eggs are a superfood. Eggs and ground beef. The years and years and years that I spent dodging around eggs and beef, trying to get more nutrition in from this vegetable and that fruit and this and that oil. And I realized that I had eggs and beef in front of me all along. And they were relatively inexpensive in the grand scheme of things, relatively accessible, and very easy to make. I'll see you tomorrow.